Welcome to the Sonic Truth. Today's guest is Vance Powell. Nice to have you, Vance. How you doing?
Nice to be here, guys. I'm good.
Good to have you. We should note multi-award-winning Vance Powell at that. Producer, mix engineer, recording engineer. Is there anything else under your cap we don't know about?
Pool boy.
Pool boy.
Purveyor of many hotel room photographs.
Yeah, photographs, yeah. I like to rent hotel rooms in cities and take pictures of the pictures in hotel rooms. I'll be having a gallery opening soon. Photos in hotel rooms.
That is an interesting niche.
That's
right
an
there.
Instagram
It's
channel.
very niche
be made.
market. Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, it's funny. I thought about this the other day. We were in the Alpine Valley, the famous Alpine Valley
Up in Wisconsin.
and yeah, exactly. And in the restroom, there's two toilets. This is an exciting story. And in one, there was a photograph of a bull. Okay, cool. I get it. In the other one, there was exactly the same photograph.
I call bullshit.
Bull, just like horns in a field. Somebody thought that was sort of funny, and I thought it was funny. I'm sure no one else saw it, but I thought it was funny.
He pays attention to his pictures.
Yeah, sort of, I guess.
Now, if I remember correctly, can you give us a little background on how you started off? Because you started off as a live engineer. Is that correct, Vance?
Yeah. Well, more or less. I mean, I started kind of like everybody does. I was a kid. I had a cool stereo, and I went to electronics school in high school. I did like a tech school path. So 3 hours a day I was in electronics, and then 3 hours a day I was taking stupid math or English or whatever. And I did that for 2 years. And so when I got out of high school, I sort of had a little bit of, I kind of knew a lot about what was going on. I got a job at Radio Shack. That was exciting. And around that time, my brother's best friend kind of lost his best friend because my brother got married. And so I started hanging out with him. And he started playing in this garage band. And when I say they were a garage band, they literally were. They would play on Saturday nights in this garage, but they would open the garage door and people would just bring their coolers and hang out.
Oh, that's
cool. It was middle America, old kind, middle America in 1983 or whatever, 84. And they had a little PA, and I started noodling on that. And then that band, they were all older dudes. Their kids had a band, and he started playing with them. And we started getting some notoriety around, and we bought a bigger PA. So yeah, I started out in that world. And then I worked at a music store for a while. I quit Radio Shack. I went to work at a music store for a while. And there was a recording studio next door. And I just was like, who runs the studio? They're like, no, nobody. It's just there. And, it belongs to the owner of the store or whatever. And like, well, can I do it? And it's like, sure. So I went over there and started kind of doing some sessions, recording some bands. We're talking real basic stuff. Tascam 80-8 with DBX, and a Tascam 3 console, which was 8 inputs and 8 monitors.
Oh, wow.
Lots of little knobs. And I did that for a while. And then I went out on the road with a couple of bands. And while I was out on the road in my hometown in Joplin, a guy by the name of Rick Massey had bought this studio that had gone under. And he was working there, and there was another engineer that was there. I went to do a session with some friends, and at the end of the session, not really the end of the session, we were kind of just getting going. It was about 6:00. He came in. He's like, "Here's the key. Come see me tomorrow." I'm like, "Okay, I'll come back I'll come by. You say you cool? I can lock up." He goes, "Yeah, sure. I know where you live, what you did, and a small town, And so I said, "Okay, I'll come by and bring your key." And he was like, "No. You're the new engineer. you're better than us. You're better than me. I'm like, I don't even know what
nice.
I'm doing. He goes, I'll show you, but you're better. You're better at this. So I just went from there and worked in. I did a lot of live sound for a long time, studio work, and yeah, it's a well documented story. If you just hunt
Yeah.
back, there's a real long tape op article podcast Larry and I did interview years ago that I really kind of dig into it. But yeah, basically I came up sort of doing live, then studio, then live, then studio, then live for a long time, and then studio now for the last 22 years.
Wow. Studio. So during that time when you're balancing between the live and the actual studio environment, how did you prepare yourself, or what, should I say, did you learn things, what you can do in the studio compared to what you can't do live? Did you ever find that balance?
It's a different thought process, first of all. Live sound is a, let's put it this way. Live sound to studio sound is like, knights with broadswords in the middle of a field of battle versus, two princes with sabers. One's a very clean sort of, the studio side is very, it's all about the performance. It doesn't matter how long it takes to get there. It's all about the performance. And in the live world, you have to figure out how to get to the performance. You get the performance set up. Everything is different every day. You do the performance sometimes like in the rain, outdoors, indoors, whatever it is, and then you load out. It's much more of a, I don't know. It's harder. It's much harder, and in some ways, the reward of live sound is that moment in time is just in people's memories. That moment when you're in the crowd and the band is kicking and the mix is great and you're enjoying the music, you go away from there and everything about that experience is perfect. Even though the mixer hated the room, didn't like the way the bass sounded or didn't like the guitar or whatever, you know what I mean? Because he's heard this 100 times. But for you, your memory of it is exactly what it is. It's that moment. It's perfect. With records, everybody in the world gets to hear all your mistakes forever, whether they know they're there or not. I can't tell you the number of records that I love that sound terrible if you just take the song out of it. You know what I mean? And I have mixed records that are a bit that way, so, but the beauty is that with records, a great song will transcend everything in the mix, so it's just a different mindset. It's a completely different mindset. It's a lot. The studio is sometimes louder, sometimes quieter.
Yeah.
To me, like, the perfect drum sound is it sounds like drums, only quieter,
That's a good point.
Live sound is like, it sounds like drums, only a lot fucking louder.
Yeah. Now, do you have a preference? Obviously, you've been doing much more studio work in the past.
Oh, no, I'm a studio guy. I don't mix for a house
guy
or anything like that anymore.
I was going to say,
I am on the road right now. But
I was going to say, you're on the road now. You're not doing live sound, are you?
I am not exactly doing live sound, but yet I am doing live sound. I am the broadcast mixer for the band Phish.
Oh, shit.
So every night that Phish plays is broadcast, 25 HD cameras, high def 4K video, high def audio, all that stuff. And to people who are on the couch tour.
The couch tour, that's what it's
couch
called.
Tour. Because Phish is a band like the Dead. They follow them. Everybody, First of all, every show that Phish does is different. They never repeat, like in any single sitting, they'll never repeat a song. So last year we did 7 shows at Madison Square Garden, didn't repeat a song.
Holy shit. Their catalog must be huge.
Well, they have about 400 songs in rotation. and they've played over 800. Like last night, Deer Creek in Indiana, outside Indy, the entire first set was the first time they've played. Every song they played in the first set was the first time they played it this year, and I had not heard a single one of them except for one.
Well, that's got to be challenging for you. Fun at the same time.
Yeah, and it's a big input list. It's 160 inputs.
Oh my gosh, Vance.
Yeah. But
how many musicians are on stage now? Only 4?
Only 4.
160 inputs.
Now, not all those inputs are music. So there's 18 audience mics. But like, there's 3 kick drum mics, 2 snare mics, a snare 2 mic, 6 toms, overheads, cowbells, rides, percussion, all that shit, samplers. And then the keyboard player is playing piano, which is about 9 channels with the pickup and microphones and all that stuff. And then he's got a Moog, which is stereo, a Prophet that's stereo, a Nord that's stereo, 2 Nords, they're both stereo, Rhodes, Wurlitzer, B3, which is 3 channels, 4 vocal mics, an effect vocal mic, and then Trey's playing through 2 amps, and we double mic it. He's actually playing through 3, but yeah, double mic it. He's got an acoustic rig that's really nice sounding. It's 3 channels. Bass player has 2 channels, and then they all have talkbacks to each other, and so all those get recorded. And then we have lines set aside for guests, because we get guests from time to time. And we have, they do an a cappella thing where they go down front and they sing a cappella at random. It happened the other night. So there's 4 of those mics. There's a microphone for a vacuum.
Hell yeah.
The drummer plays vacuum, which he did the other night, which is actually pretty funny. Yeah, so I mean, it's spare vocal mic here and there, spare channels. I think we're recording about 140 tracks, something like that, and that's including we print stems every night. So,
wow,
we have Lavo MC56 console, which is a broadcast console. It's it's licensed at 512 by 512, I think. So it's pretty big. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
Really, really beautiful sounding desk. Really, really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming you're positioned out in some type of trailer outside.
I'm in a truck. Yeah, I'm in a broadcast trailer.
Broadcast truck.
Video guys on the other side.
Now, is that being broadcast live, or is it
live?
It is. Wow.
Live. Yep. It's broadcast live. The video will come up. Let's see. Give me a second here. The video will come up every day after the show. So let's see. Like right now, we played last night. Yeah. So it's up now. You can watch it now. So
really.
And it's like a subscription thing, or you can, buy the show. It's like $50, I think, to buy the show, and you get to watch it twice.
That's pretty good.
But the audio, if you're a live Phish subscriber, you can have forever. And they have every live show since 2003.
Must have a big server.
They have, and they have shows. They have cassette tapes they've digitized from back in the 80s when they were still in college, I mean, it's a whole deal. A guy, Kevin Shapiro, is the archivist, and, man, I mean, and they were one of the first, like back in the late 90s, they were recording the show live, and then they would have this wall of CD recorders, and you could buy the show on a CD as you were walking out.
Damn, that's cool,
man. Didn't they do the? I was reading. I think the Sphere.
We just did the Sphere. Yeah, we did it earlier this year.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Have you seen any of the footage from that?
No.
Dude, get online and just type in Phish Sphere and watch. And there's a probably 20 songs from the Sphere, full quality, all that stuff.
Check that
Yeah,
out.
it's pretty cool. You don't have to even like the band. It doesn't matter. It's just.
Oh, I mean, they're great musicians. I mean, fuck. Now, how long is each show their performance? Does that vary?
3 hours.
3 hours?
Yeah, 2.5-hour sets. It can go into 4 hours. We've definitely had a show at Madison Square Garden. We had a Christmas show, or not Christmas, New Year's show last year. I was in the truck at 10 in the morning, and I walked out of the truck. I locked the door at 1:57, I think, in the morning.
Oof. It's a long haul there.
Yeah. It's hard when you, those late nights, man. Yeah.
They were rehearsing. It's a long story. Yeah. But it's cool. I mean, I did it because I was asked to do it by Trey, the guitar player for the band. And he totally suckered me in too. He's like, "Hey, you and your wife want to come down to Mexico? Come down. Spend a week
wink,
with us.
wink.
Wink, wink." You know, and it was like, "Yeah, Mexico. Heck yeah, that sounds good." And it was like, "Mix a show." I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that." Didn't know what I was getting myself into. So. And then it was like, and then last year the spring tour came up, and it was like, "Oh look, it's only 7 shows. I mean, 7 shows, no big deal." Like, yeah, I'll go do it. It was like, hey, the summer, 28 days, 27, 21 shows, 7 of them in New York. Like, well, I'll do it. Now here I am. So
can't beat that. At least you're not being out there being the roadie and handling all the front of house and monitoring. You can walk into the air-conditioned broadcast truck and
sometimes make it happen. Air-conditioned. Sometimes.
Oh, sometimes?
Grievances.
Yeah, we've had some air conditioning issues, but it was hot. We were in St. Louis the other day, and it was 97 degrees outside.
Man.
It was about 85 degrees in the truck. It was hot.
Hot boxing the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah, those summer tours are tough, with the heat and that, all the gear, everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have some
I don't
gear
really
out.
have, I've got it easier than pretty much anybody. I mean, there's a couple of people that got it as easy as I do, but I have my assistant, Cohen. He's out here with me. And so he's on a bus that goes before my bus in the mornings. So he's on the video bus. So if we are in a new city, like we're off today, today's day off. So tomorrow we're right down the street here at the arena, whatever it's called. And he'll go in about an hour and a half before me and get the truck turned on and powered up and all that stuff. And even then, I'll go into probably 11 tomorrow. So it's not hard, but it's about a 12-hour day every day. It's about 12 hours. So, but I have a lot of rules. Like one is I don't listen any louder than about 78, 79 dB. I have a meter right in front of me. So I listen very quiet. And it's the only way to really keep my ears together over a long haul,
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, that's critical and key,
Yeah, and gotta be strenuous. Yeah, after that long a time, I was going to ask you, what you just answered it by keeping the volume at a relatively low volume. You can get some ear fatigue.
77 is pretty fun. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And it's pretty low. So, and that's okay. I'm used to it. We've had, when I started last year, the truck was an empty box truck, right? That they had put a carpet down, like a utility carpet over the wood, kind of. And it had a little bit of some kind of Oralex like shit on the walls.
Right.
And console sat on top of a rack, which means I had to stand up. So it was a standing thing, like all day. It sucked. So, and then they loaded everything in the back of the truck. We strapped it down, did the shows, unstrapped it all, loaded it out the back. And so when I sort of said, look, I'll come do this because it's a challenge and I'm finding it challenging, and trust me, I definitely was. If I go back and listen to some of those early shows, I'm like, ooh, not good at all. But it's only there forever for posterity.
Yeah.
And funny, the only thing is, Phish fans aren't like, oh, it's awesome. They're like, no, the bass sucks, or I can't hear the keyboards, or the keyboards are too loud, or it's like,
they're just brutally honest.
I get burned on Twitter all the time. People just like,
really?
I can't hear this. And for a while, it was true. I couldn't hear it. So over the last year, since the Sphere, we have done a bunch of acoustic treatment in the truck. We changed speakers. We didn't really change speakers. We got new drivers. The truck went to Mexico, and when it came back, every driver in the ATCs were gap shifted.
Oh, shit.
We had to replace every driver in the ATCs.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, Mexico, it's 1,800 miles down there in truck. It's really, really, really rough. When we got there, we have a Sonnet chassis with the Pro Tools, system in it, and all three cards had shook out of the chassis. They were just laying in the chassis.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I guess they don't have good roads in Mexico then.
They don't really have good roads.
No.
and it's in Cancun, so it's like all the way down and then back around. Yucatan Peninsula up here, so it's not like we're
not an easy drive. Yeah, you flying. We're in Florida, so flying to Cancun's nothing. But driving through.
And there isn't any really good way to do it. I think that some of the staging they tried to ship once, and that didn't really work. I mean, it's just I don't know. But I mean, ship, like
on a ship.
Miami.
Yeah.
That's
Port
funny.
of Miami, even, but yeah, it doesn't really work. They hire Mexican drivers, and they hire a security firm.
That's the cartel.
They just, they just have to have,
Yeah. Good idea.
It could all just disappear into, somewhere and just disappear into the woods.
Yeah, I remember when I used to work at Platinum Post Studios in Orlando, which was part of Full Sail then, and they had a mobile recording unit in which they took down to Jamaica. It was for the Sunsplash Festival, I believe, in like 91 or 92, and Customs literally tore the entire bus apart because they thought they were transporting cocaine or something.
Yeah.
And they ended up
on the way back or on the way there?
On the way there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they couldn't do the gig because the whole truck was torn apart.
Yeah.
So that's one experience I hear about that.
I was on tour years and years and years ago, and we crossed over into Canada, or from Canada. And there's a crossing in Alberta called Sweetgrass. It's a really nice little beautiful place. Come into Montana, the very, very top of Montana. And
nice.
The monitor engineer, not for the act I worked for, but for the other act, was kind of a cokehead, and they really sniffed him out, so to speak. And we had to unload trucks in the parking lot. The artist, the band, everybody. He made everybody. The artist made it. If he had to help unload a truck, they all did. So we pushed stuff out. They'd walked dogs around and opened cases. And it was about 6 hours. And then we had to load the thing back up ourselves.
Damn.
So
did he still have a job the next day?
The monitor guy, it's funny. It's sort of a sad thing. He did. They got him to rehab, and then he bailed on rehab. Oh. And so they let him go. And then, of course, he spiraled and killed himself, basically.
Damn. That's too bad.
That sucks. Yeah. It's
not a
one
good
of those
memory.
things that happens.
Yeah.
So lighten it up. Reverbs.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about some reverbs.
Well, I know we first started connect. I think we first connected, or I first went to Sputnik in 2020, Summer NAMM, which, by the way, I miss Summer NAMM. I think that was like the
was
cool
that 2020
NAMM.
or 2019?
2019, maybe. Yeah, maybe it was. You had a party at Sputnik. I remember that.
Yeah, 2019, man. 2019. That was a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember I saw your XL305 there.
Yep.
Your original one. And there's not really many people that use the original. So like that piqued my interest because I was in the process of, as I was telling you back then, developing reimagination with the original designer of the XL3.
I actually think we met before that, to be honest with you. Because I remember coming to you and saying, look, if you're going to be building reproductions of gear, you need to build an XL305.
Yeah, I think so.
And it was I think it was at AES.
May have been, yeah.
It was AES, and it wasn't NAMM. I think it might have been AES. One of those two. Or maybe it was Summer NAMM the year before. But yeah, I mean, I think we both had that conversation in 2019. So
yeah, it was but it was cool because like finally it came to fruition 2021. I think that was the Summer NAMM. You came out and you literally have, like, many people don't know this, the first one that was ever built. Like the one that I built and tested myself. That's the one that we shipped to Vance, and hopefully you get some good use. I never gave it back. Yep. Nor should you. Dick. Put it to good use.
What a dick. Man, I got to be honest with you. I use it all the time. It's interesting. I'm not a lover of reverb usually, but I like it when it does something that's sort of either unexpected, or it changes the tone of something to something really interesting. And I found that I love it on strings, and I love it on anything that's sort of sustained, which is strange because it adds something to it and it gets really wide, and I like that. So I also really love it, man. I love it on drums. So
wow. Yeah, usually that's a deal breaker. Any sort of spring device is a deal breaker on drums.
That's the thing about the 305. The 305 sounded like a chamber to me.
Yeah.
And that's how it's great on vocals. I mean, I use it a lot. So, and it's funny, now I have both my 305 and your 305 in my patch, so I can just, switch between them. And they're totally different. And that's I have a feeling they're probably all different to some degree.
No, they are. And the idea was the 305R is by design supposed to be different, per what Wayne wanted to do as far as sort of driving each side of the spring assembly differently. Mm-hmm. And I think what's cool though is like what you're doing with the original, and that's kind of like what we did with the plugin, is like you could toggle between the two, and like you have that in the hardware form, which is, I think they're both equally useful and different in a good way. There's a little bit more high end sheen, I think, to the 305R, just because it's being driven completely differently on each side of it, so you can hear more of what's going on with the lovely spring assembly inside there. But you're 100% correct. It is like, it was marketed even back then as an echo chamber. Like it's literally an echo chamber made out of springs. And that's like the mathematical formula of what it does. And so, it's such a special, cool thing. And I love the fact that the left and right are like not supposed to be the same. Like you can like hear like there's more low end on the right side, and you don't have to like set the controls the same. Most stereo devices, you kind of have a natural inclination to do that,
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I really do. It's I don't have anything to add to it. I mean, and I love the plugin. I love the fact that you left the plugin like you left it just like the spring. It's weird because I use the spring since I mix analog always, on my desk. It lives on channel 47 and 48 on my desk. It's all the way at the end. And I just leave it up, right? It's just up. And so it's on an aux. So sometimes I'll just put a few things to it to sort of see what it does, to kind of like, see what this does, see what that does, And, it's super cool. I used the plugin version a little different. I'll use the plugin version when I want to sort of sculpt it more with the EQ, and I'll then put it on like a baritone guitar or a cello, something like that. If I'm using the other one, the real one, for something else. So yeah, I mean, I love it both. Good work. Good work, guys.
Thank you, Vance. No, I think that's a excellent way to show too how digital and analog come together. There's only so many of them you can have too in the analog domain. So I think having the plugins are nice and useful in that regard as well. No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Now with the artists that you worked with a wide variety of genres. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
From Chris Stapleton to, is it ICP? You worked with Insane Clown Posse?
I did. Yeah, Jack White, ICP, Tenarwin, a lot of people.
So when you're approaching a mix for Chris Stapleton compared to a mix
I record that, so that's...
Oh, well, that's a bonus. I
record it as the mix, sort of. So that's
that's a beautiful thing.
Well, yeah. I'm an old school guy. I'm an old tape guy. You didn't have lots of little faders and plugins on your tape machine. And you didn't have unlimited tracks. So, true. You had to make sounds that were going to work, on the record for the record, instead of like, oh, well, I can record this shitty and then I'll just
mix it in the mix
or pin to it later, which is how a lot of people are making records these days. Yeah. Very lazy record making, in my opinion. But that's how a lot of people have learned, and track count isn't important. Doesn't matter. You can have as many tracks as you want. So if you want to record, 8 tracks of guitar for one part, you can do it. It's stupid, but you can do it. I usually just go, okay, that one, yeah, okay, yeah, it's cool. This one, okay, this one, and this one, okay, this one.
Yeah, we had Steve Shady on last week, and we presented to him the idea of if you were to mix a record in the box, the same song, and then a week later mix it analog with no screen, right? So eliminating the visual aspect of mixing. Mm-hmm. How would you feel that would differ? Because I feel a lot of engineers nowadays have become more visually.
Yeah.
Rather than using their ears.
We were never meant to look at music. You know what
Correct.
I mean? I always have screen corners, So when the artist comes in to listen, I will scroll my trackball down in the corner. Screen goes black. Because they'll look at the computer while the music's happening over here. And it's like, no, don't, music's here, not here. So, but yeah, it's a different deal. I mean, I pose this question all the time to students because the Blackbird Academy's wrapped away, and a dear departed Mark Rubel would bring the class over there a lot, and I would pose the question to them, okay, if I hire you to mix your record and I say, look, I love the rough mix. I just want it better than that. But that's the vibe I want, okay? And I send you a folder with 80 audio tracks, right? And I send you a folder with 23 audio tracks. Which one of those two is going to be easier to get what I want from? Which one's going to be closer to my vision? And every time they go, oh, the one with 24. I'm like, okay, well, then that's how you make records. That's how you do it. You do it like that. You don't do it 80 tracks. Just because you can record every microphone on the drum kit doesn't mean you should do it to individual tracks. You shouldn't.
I like that.
Make sounds. make the sound of the record as you record it. So, yeah. So back to you were saying, if I was mixing Chris Stapleton record.
Yeah. And then how do you approach that in comparison to mixing like ICP? Right.
Well, ICP was another thing I recorded. That was a Jack White deal. That was all done on 8-track.
Was it really?
That was something completely. That's completely different. But let's say like I just mixed a record as an English artist named Janet Devlin. Right? Mm-hmm. She's English. She's actually Irish, but she was a young contestant on that Simon Cowell. It's in Europe. It's called the X Factor. Right?
I think I've heard of that. Yeah.
She's a great singer. She's funny as shit. And she's real fiery. She's awesome. Now she's all grown. You know, that was like when she was 14. She's like 26 or 24 now. But she's a spitfire. I mean, she's really cool. Now, I mixed a record. Now, here's what's funny. They came to Blackbird and did the record at Blackbird with my old assistant, Lowell Reynolds. And, you know, he recorded it like everybody in Nashville records, like all the country guys, which means, yeah, there were 3 kick drum tracks and 3 snare drums and blah, 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 blah. And, 5-room mics and a chamber microphones and all kinds of things that they didn't need to do, which is fine. And what I did was I just put the track up and with it pretty much all at 0 and then tried to feel out if I could get a balance from it that would work. And then I started eliminating things that would make it cleaner. And then, but you know, I mix on my console because my console is a template. You know, people talk about, oh, they're a template. Well, my console is the ultimate template. You know, my electric guitars are always on 17 and 18, or 19 and 20, or 21, 22, 23, 24 are always my acoustic guitars, or strings, or, you know, whatever, you know, or strings are like, organ is like 25, 26, and keyboards, 27, 28 strings, or keyboards, or vocals, or whatever it needs to be, right? Drums, room is always 1 and 2, kick is 3, snare is 4. Doesn't matter how many mics, just single tracks, right? And so I can go song to song pretty fast once we kind of figure out the balance of how the record is in Pro Tools. My assistant sets it up upstairs. He has the same layout into a summing box instead of my console. And once we get rolling, you know, I mix 2 songs a day all the time.
Damn.
All the time.
Yeah, that's keeping it old school. Definitely. I mean, because like you said, the template, what type of console is it that you use, Vance?
I have a 6000.
Nice.
48, 6048E, 1986.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's the sound.
Yeah,
you don't use the automation on that anymore, do you?
Absolutely.
Do you really?
Absolutely. Why shouldn't I?
I love it. Fuck yeah.
I use the automation. I use the recall. I use all of it. And I have 3 spare computers. So I'll be using it for the rest of my career.
That's
Good choice.
I think I was reading something you were talking about the price of the console when you bought it versus like what it would be valued at, like what you would spend today on that.
Yeah. So that console new in 1986, March 6th of 1986 was $3,009. $309,000. Sorry, not $3,009.
Yeah.
$309,000. $309,000. Yeah. And that's about $900,000 now in today's money. Yeah. So comparison from 1986. So I think I looked that up the other day, but that's probably right. About right. Something like that. I ended up paying about $30,000 for the board. I've put another $30,000 into it at least now.
Yeah.
I recapped it, re-switched a bunch of it, redid all the pan switches. I've replaced the original computer because it crashed on me. It died. I was doing a Stapleton, the last Stapleton record, and every night we do that over at our CAA, and every night I come to Sputnik, put the hard drives in, and archive it. on my system. And I walked in, and it was something in my control room was just screaming like crazy. And it was the keyboard, the beep of the keyboard was just solid on. So I figured out what it was. I turned the computer off, turned it back on, it came right back. Turned it off, turned it back on, it came right back. And I was like, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna not worry about it today. And I had bought a couple of computers from people who are like, oh, they're broken, they don't work. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I got a lot of parts. We'll fix it. I got a couple now. So we plugged one of them in, and it wasn't broken at all. The floppy disk was broken, but my floppy works great. So so we hooked it up, and Chip moved the cards around to get it to my configuration. And and it's rocking and rolling. So
that's amazing. Yeah,
it is.
That's great. Yeah, that's something you don't really hear. Or one of the deterrents, I guess, of analog, right, is just the amount of maintenance it takes to keep everything up. And obviously your room has a lot of analog gear. So I'm sure it's just part of the game, you have to keep up with it.
I think my repair budget is about 13 to 15 grand a year.
It's still in the grand scheme of things, it's not that bad. I mean, considering, how much you actually have. If you've seen pictures of Vance's room, he's got a lot of gear. So, I mean, a lot of them are workhorses though, they're trying to true.
All of it, pretty much all of it is on all the time. I have, my console is a film desk, by the way, it's 6,000. So it has no mic pre's. So therefore I have all outboard mic pre's, which is good because I can tailor things to whatever mic pre I want to use, And I've got like 1073, 1066, 1084 kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And I've got some RCA mic pre's. I've got a whole bunch of API style Cappy mic pre's. I've got some Flickinger mic pre's. I've got UTAs. I've got 4 of the UTA mic pre's. So I've got, I don't know how many I don't have any idea how many mic pre's I actually have. So, but I have enough to do pretty much any band that I've had come through. So
yeah, you've never been short.
I've definitely done big bands in my place. So,
Nice. Which are old RCA mic pre's you have there?
PA11As.
Nice. Those are great. Yeah, I like the 2Cs are really cool too. They're more line amps, I guess, but a lot of them were back then. Those are killer.
Yeah, I've got 4 of those, and then I've got 2 of the PA version of those, which it's exactly the same circuit, but has different transformers. So they're like not these big, huge, beefy UTAs. They're a smaller transformer. And then in the feedback loop, it has a resistor and a inductor for a tilt control. So it's basically a 1K tilt. You turn it to the right, it tilts up, and the low end goes down. You tilt to the left, that goes the other way. And it's in the feedback, and it's called a compensator. And it's just the weirdest thing, but sometimes it's just perfect.
I love
have using like a ribbon mic or something for like room sound, and you're like, oh, I want that darker, Yeah. I want it. I don't usually want it brighter, but I usually want it, darker or whatever. And they don't have a pad, so you can overdrive them, and that's kind of cool.
You like overdriving that?
Nice. Yeah, they had some clever designs back then, that they would. That's really neat. Yeah, I love just
I think that the media, I should say, they were using was to some degree only so good. So they were actually out designing the media that was possible. That's why Neumann microphones are so amazing. They're so amazing because the media that they had to work with, up to World War II, we had transcription turntables. We had lacquer. That was our medium. And wire. Yeah. Those were the medium. So you had to have really good microphones and really great sounding microphone preamps and all that stuff to make anything come out sounding good. And then when obviously the Germans invented the tape recorder, and when after the war, when that was, basically stolen from them, but that's neither here nor there, and turned into Ampex, and then, all the other Magnacorder and all the other companies that came along, the medium got better, but now they have all these great recording equipment. And so that's why, to me, like all those like 50s records, are so amazing sounding, because the medium finally caught up to what was going on. And they had engineers who understood that you don't put a mic up close on everything. And, you capture it, you capture the picture in a room and you make a room sound good. Doesn't require, recording's not hard if the band is great. Just kind of
yeah, no, right. Couldn't agree more. Like, the craft had finally improved along to that point where, hey, maybe we shouldn't like close mic the ribbon,
Yeah,
that's funny.
There's a lot of pictures. There's a lot of pictures online. There's a Facebook group about the Quonset hut in Nashville. You can look it up.
Okay.
Owen Bradley's Quonset hut, and they had, in some ways, some people will poo-poo all this shit. I don't give a shit, but they had it sort of in a way right. They had a drum kit that was a kick, a snare, a tom, and a floor tom, or just a kick and a snare. Like not even a floor tom was really sort of like, I think the floor tom was like over in the corner and they used it to hold an ashtray, that kind of, you know what I mean? And they had one microphone over the top, and they had a 44 out in front of it about, this far away, right? And the drums, those drums, everybody played them and they never moved. And then all the band set up a little ways from them. The bass player was right next to him, had like a 44 on him, upright bass. And then the guitar players, they had their amps on these kind of gobo credenza things right here next to their face, with a 44 right in front of them, or a 77, about this far away. And the mic stands were these huge mic stands that were bolted to the wall. And so they would just keep those mics and move them around to whatever they needed them for on these credenzas. And so these players who are playing guitar, the amp is right here. So the amp's not fucking loud, and they all played together. They didn't really have headphones, right? And the singer would be over there in the corner behind the coats, the coat rack, literally singing over in the corner. And they'd cut to 3-track. Band on one track, vocalist on another track, and then they'd leave a track for backing vocals or strings or things like that.
Wow.
All those Patsy Cline's records, that's how all of them were made.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful sounding. And they had a tube desk, probably an RCA tube desk.
Yeah.
And if they had Neumann mics, which a lot of the studios didn't, they did later, but a lot of them really didn't. They had maybe a 47 the singer would sing on, maybe. A lot of times they were singing on 77s, 44s. So, it's just a whole thing. And I'm not talking about just Nashville. I mean, that's how, LA, I mean,
records
started, you don't put microphones on things, you put microphones by things,
It's a great point. It's getting to today's modern era of music and technologies. It's almost become saturated with all these toys and all these pieces of equipment in which, most people overuse them. And I believe that's why records today may not be as pleasant to listen to as they once did 15, 20, 30, 60, 70 years ago.
The other thing that's going on is I don't know the right word to use here. Maybe the democratization of music, where I want to say this right. First of all, the music that a lot of us grew up loving and the records we love the sound of, we love the things, I mean, there are records that are made today I love, so don't get me wrong here, but there were a lot of gatekeepers in the way of artists. Now, what that means is that if you were going to build a recording studio, right? First of all, it cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Period. Right?
Yeah.
It wasn't this laptop and a Apollo, right? It wasn't that. I owned an A800 for a while. That was $85,000 when it was new. Weighed 700 pounds. Okay, this is not something trivial. This requires a tech, requires, air conditioning. My console, again, $309,000 console, that requires a tech, requires air conditioning. Those gates to entry were expensive. And so to get in the gate, the studio, cost money. And if you had no talent or you were just trying to, you were just somebody who was famous, which is kind of how things work now, unfortunately, TikTokers and shit like that.
Yeah.
You had to have somebody who had money who would pay for the studio time. And then the studio had to pay an engineer, had to pay a staff, had to pay the janitor, had to pay the light bill, all that. All that cost money. And so to spend money, you had gatekeepers. And those gatekeepers were A&R guys, and they were record promoters and record producers. And, and those gatekeepers wouldn't just pick somebody to make a record, anybody. They wouldn't pick some, they definitely had over the time, they would pick some good looking dude to put on a face of a record. But if he couldn't sing, it didn't matter. Same thing, because there wasn't any way to fake it back then, right? But what we have now is we have that the entry point, the cost of entry point for making music is so low now that everybody can make music and put it out. That doesn't mean they should. It just means they can. That's the democratization or I don't know the exact word I'm trying to say there. The fact that now anybody can put out a record, right? There's no gatekeepers. And that's great for a lot of artists that would no one would ever hear. But it's not really great for music, because what ends up happening is, with 100 records a day being released, how do you find the signal in all the noise?
Yeah.
Used to be, if you guys remember, or if you're old enough to remember, they would say, new Bruce Springsteen record coming out June 28th or whatever, insert artist here, favorite artist here. And then on June 28th, you went to Record Land or Music Land or Tower or whatever, and you waited in line with other people to buy the record. And then you bought the record, and immediately you drove back home and put it on your turntable, or you put it in your cassette deck, or even maybe the CD player. Really more turntable and cassette deck for me, but CDs later. But, and you listen to it. And you know what you did? You listened to it.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, wow, that's great. Or that's great. Or that sucks. Or whatever. Right? Yeah. The great thing about music, it's one man's boy howdy is another man's far out, one man's OMG is another man's what WTF, and that's how we ingested records. And now you just put on Spotify, which I fucking hate, and people listen to playlists. Nobody listens to a record. They listen to, this, whatever the corporate fuckers at Spotify spit out to you in your algorithm. And people are happy with that because it doesn't require thought and it doesn't require time. So music quality can go down because people aren't listening to music. They're listening at it. Or even worse, they listen to music on YouTube, which is the fucking worst. Because A, it sounds like shit usually. Yeah. B, it's usually pirated, which means the artist didn't get paid, right? And if the artist didn't get paid, man, guys, we are out of business. You're out of business.
Oh, it's even just, you mentioned the entry level, coming down to make music on the back end, selling it, like the records. They're not making, that's.
Well, vinyl is the only medium in the music industry that makes money. And what I mean by that is it's the only medium that has, the medium costs $4 to make, minus recording costs. Recording costs, you write that out. We're just talking about the medium. You get it made, 1,000 of them, let's say, for $4 a piece, right? You sell them at the minimum $10. At minimum. So now you got to ship them, you got to do all that. Yeah. Okay, cool. So maybe you make $4 profit, right? Well, if you sell 10 records at a show, you made $40, but 10 people now have your record. You know what I mean? And so it's a thing like I'm out here with Phish. They don't sell a lot of vinyl because a lot of people don't want to carry it around with them at the show, but people do pick records up as they're leaving. Right. And they're doing this festival coming up here. They're going to have every record they've ever done at this festival. They have a whole vinyl and music tent. They have every record they've ever done. They're going to have, so people can buy it, and all that, and they're expecting to sell a lot of records. I did a really good band from my hometown called the Ben Miller Band years ago. They're kind of this like Ozarky band with a string bass, upright, like washtub bass player and banjos, and guy played washboard and trumpet and all kinds of shit. They're great. They toured with ZZ Top in Europe like for 4 years. And in Europe, they had to sell their records the same price as ZZ Top, which was 40 euros.
Oh, wow.
So they would send 1,000 records, have them made in Czechoslovakia, ship them to the venues, and they would sell like 50 a night.
Damn.
So like over the course of a tour with ZZ Top, they'd sell them all. At that point, about $30 US profit per unit.
Shit.
So
well, there's a surge. Hopefully more artists take that road in doing so, because that was a great point you made, that people are not listening to music anymore. They're listening at music. Is that how you? Yeah, I mean, that's a great.
They listen at it.
Yeah.
And look, I do it also, because sometimes, if you make records, you make music all day, usually the last thing you want to do when you get home is listen to music, right?
Yeah.
And when I say listen to music, I mean like listen to music, like put the vinyl on, listen to the record. I usually just don't want to listen to anything, but if I do, I tend to go way across the grain that you would think that I would ever be listening to, and listen to like weird Brazilian sambas and bossa novas, and like stuff from other parts of the world. I don't have anything to do with this app, but I have to tell you that one of the coolest apps for your phone, and it actually works on my computer too, is this app, and I'll show it to you. It's got a dumb name, but that's kind of the cool part. It's called Radio.
Hey.
Okay? And Radio is let's see here. Hold on. That was it. Hold on. Yep. I'm signing in here. I pay for this. I log in. Radio as an app is crazy because it's the entire world. All right, you get the entire world, and you get whatever decade you want.
Oh shit!
So, like in 1940, cool. Hawaii. Okay. Cool. Now, what's interesting is if you love music and you like history, if you start looking in 1930s and you go around in Europe, music in 1930s in Europe is really, really, really different from 1940s. Because what happened is the United States basically had to go reinvade Europe, and our music came there. So like even places where you wouldn't think that the music was interesting, like 1940s Turkey, right? Okay, cool. And check out the 50s. Still Turkish, very Turkish.
Yeah.
But we've got drums, we've got, I mean, music all over the world sort of starts really changing. Broadcasting, think about all these things: broadcasting, radio, records, influences from other places. It's really pretty great. And that app, I'll just pick a country and a decade and just let it play. And it's awesome. Like as you go through the decades, as you go through the decades, like in Africa, the countries change because they did change. So, like in the 30s, this is. Sorry, no. That's not what I want. I want that country right there. So this is Kenya in the 30s. Kenya in the 40s, Kenya in the 50s, 60s, 70s.
Wow. What a big jump.
Yeah. So it's really, really cool. And it's called Radio with a bunch of O's.
That is really cool.
It's a free app. It's a free app. I paid for it, so I don't get ads or whatever. And you can pick things interesting like slow songs, fast songs, weird songs, which I just always pick weird. And you can do islands. So you can set up like a little island of your own music, like a playlist. And then it has a function called taxi. You hit taxi and it goes country, 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 country in a decade. You can learn around the world.
That's cool.
It's really, cool. Really, really cool.
Man, I could see how that would appeal to you too, especially because you're listening to a lot of the same thing over and over, probably every day mixing, not the same types of artists. Obviously you have a diverse group, but being able to just sort of explore something completely different and, than what you're used to listening to, even in just today's, time and age. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think it's hold on a second here. And I'm texting to my wife, as we have to do. I think that as music creators, we have to think outside our own, where we're at. I mean, I think for me, like, the big clients in my career have been, Jack White, obviously, who I love, and he's a great guy. Stapleton, these are big ones. But like even like Phish, Brandy Carlisle, I did stuff with her. There's a lot of big name artists that I've worked with, but the smaller artists are the ones that I'm most excited about. There's a band from France that I do. They're called the Inspector Clouseau. And I mean, I love them so much. Like, we went to their house last year and stayed at their house in Gascony, and they're organic farmers, but they're also like this rock band. It's 2-piece, drums and guitar. And they're just like the best people in the world. And I'll do records with them forever if I can, and I'll do them for whatever. I mean, my normal fee, no. We're just going to do it for whatever they can do it for. Because I can do that now, which is great.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah. But I turn things down all the time that I don't want to do. And, that happens.
So how much longer is this Phish tour that you're on lasting?
I am fishing, as we say, till the 19th of August. I fly home on the 19th. And then I fly back for a week on the 27th. So then I'll get back on like the 2nd of September. And then that's it for me until New Year's.
And they do Madison Square Garden every New Year's?
Every New Year's.
No shit.
We do 4 shows, 4 nights.
Wow.
Yeah.
Easily sold out too, I imagine.
Oh, sold out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did 9, or let's see, 7. Yeah, we did 10 last year. 7 and 3. Is that right? 7 and 4. No, 11 last year, and all sold out.
Back-to-back nights.
No, we do.
Okay.
We do like this last year. We did 7. We did 3, then a day off, then 2, and then a day off, and then 2. I think.
Yeah, I don't know how as musicians, 3 hours a night.
Yeah,
that many. That's kudos to them.
Yeah, they are one of those strange deals. And, it doesn't matter to me what anybody thinks of Phish. I now have seen enough shows that I get it. Like, I get it. I get why people like them, because they're great musicians. They can be really serious. They can be really fucking stupid. John Fishman played Vacuum the other night.
Yeah, that's cool.
He has an Electrolux vacuum and he puts it in his mouth and goes and basically makes music while the band plays. And Trey went and played drums. It's like they're goofy at times. They're completely unserious at times. And then they'll have a song that just, there's a song called "I Miss You" that Trey wrote about his sister. His sister died, and it's heartbreaking. It's beautiful, So look, I get it. I get why people like it. And I'm on, I'm in the 70s now of the shows. I've seen like 70. So I get it. But even like last night, the entire first set, I'd never heard those songs.
Wow. See, that's got to be exciting and fun. Just not knowing what the set list is going to be and have it change every night. It makes the job interesting, because if you're going to perform the same set list, you're like, oh, here comes this song again. Get ready for this.
Jack White was that way too. He never. It's funny in a way how close they are to a degree, because they're both playing me at rock and roll, which is great. Like sort of semi-traditional rock, guitar and keyboard, bass rock. They don't do set list. They play long shows. There's no, in other words, like if Jack does Ball and Biscuit, it may go for 3 minutes, like the record, and may go for 13. It just depends on what happens. You know what I mean? Now, that doesn't mean he's a jam band. It just means, fucking Jack White. He does what he wants.
Yeah.
But the Phish guys kind of get looped into that whole jam band thing, and a lot of people don't dig it. But the Sphere shows, they slayed. And I know they spent almost $11 million or something like that. Don't quote me on that. But they spent, let me rephrase that. They spent several $million so that for 4 nights, every song was different. Every night for 4 3-hour sets. All the visuals were different. And
shit.
They didn't repeat. There's no repeating of the visuals. Dead and Company's repeating visuals. They're playing a lot of shows. They're playing same songs. They're repeating visuals. Phish doesn't do that.
Shit.
It's next level.
They look, they sold out, 19,000 seats 4 times in a row at an average ticket cost of $600. Do the math.
They're doing okay.
Well, yeah, but then there was 100 extra people on the crew for the Sphere shows.
100 extra people.
Jesus Christ.
Same thing happens. Like we get somewhere. And I'm talking about like designers and all the people. Like some of them weren't there. Some of them were
involved in
it. Doing all these videos. And sometimes we'll have 30 or 40. Like last year, we had like 30 dancers and puppeteers and all the stuff for New Year's Eve. So, they're goofy and wacky.
That's like the modern day Frank Zappa show almost.
Yeah. Well, and every now and then they'll do Peaches. So, they'll pull things out of they're doing Cross-Eyed and Painless from Remain in Light, Talking Heads, did great.
Wow.
They will pull out. They played Good Times, Bad Times the other night. So they'll pull out No Quarter. They did Day in the Life the other night.
Mm.
So, but then they do their own songs. And they have songs that,
Yeah.
No.
That's got to be, I know that's why you're doing it so much. It's got to be a really fun challenge. And I'm sure you're, after doing it for the amount of time you've been doing it now, you're probably excited to get back into the studio, into your work groove though, too, I'm sure.
Yeah. When I get done here, when we end on the 19th, I fly back on the 19th. I'm taking a whole week off. My mom's coming to town. We lost my dad earlier this year, and so she's going to come. We're going to go, and she's going to come, and we're going to go do a little traveling together. And then I'm going to do the shows out in Denver, the Dick's Sporting Goods. They're a big soccer stadium. They do like 4 nights out there. And then I'm going to be happy to kind of like, okay, cool. I'm going to go back to making records. And the first thing I do, I get back and I do some work, this band, the Red Clay Strays. It's something for Dave Cobb. It's like 3 nights. It's a live recording at the Ryman. So, it's kind of like, okay, we're going to go record it. And then we're going to go to RCA and mix it and edit and, do all that. And then I'm going to do another record with the Inspector Clouseau. They're coming over for about almost a month, and we'll make a record. They'll go do some shows. I'll go play some shows, and then October. I'm not sure what I'm doing in October, but something. So
something.
Oh, I'm sure you're doing something in October. Yeah. No, that's great, Vance. No, can't thank you enough.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time.
Taking the time out and showing us your awesome picture collection too.
Yeah. My pictures.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at that.
Pictures.
Highlight. I think that's going to be the thumbnail for this podcast.
Here is really nice. It's quite nice.
Is it?
Yeah.
Let's see what you got.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's check out the view.
Let's see here. Hold on. Let me just. We're here at the beautiful J.W. Marriott Hotel in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Hold on. Okay. And here's the view.
Oh, that is nice.
That actually is a nice view.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Some building over there and a bridge and some more bridges. And I think those are the Grand Rapids. No, I don't know. But so it's exciting. It's exciting here in Grand Rapids.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks again, my friend. I really enjoyed speaking with you and hearing some of the stories and your thought process.
And maybe this January, are you guys going to go to NAMM?
Yeah, we'll be out at NAMM.
I might go this year. It's been for the last couple of years it's been a little weird. And last year, I couldn't go. I couldn't make it. What was I doing last year? I don't know. I was doing something, whatever it was. Earlier this year, I should say. I did not go, but I think I will go next year.